Welcome to the Cherry Picker, the horror movie podcast where we like to kill people, but not really. I'm your host, Zach Cherry, and with me as always...
Red team, come in, red team. Eddie of Edward is Truth.
And today we're talking about Child's Play 3. Released August 30th, 1991. I didn't even realize this was the anniversary. Well, I mean, it's August 29th as we're recording this, so it's going to be released next week, but totally unintentional. I think we were just thinking of like back to school September sort of things, and we're like, Child's Play 3 is in military school.
Yeah, it's his introduction to it. It's certainly Andy's first day, so sure, why not?
Yeah, and as I was watching this last night, I was like going through the IMDb trivia, as I do sometimes, especially with movies that I've seen over and over again. And it like actually has in the trivia, it's like the whole movie takes place over 2 days, or at least like the time that Andy spends at Kent Military. It's just like, it's literally the second night is the war games, and then he's taken off by the police. But I mean, I guess that's typical.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's typical of most horror movies, because like Scream takes place over like typically like 2.5 days. Every Disney movie ever, like it feels like it's forever, but you know, really they're just there for like 2 days or something. So
yeah, less than a week.
yeah. Which I mean, maybe it's a testament to a film's pacing if it can feel like, oh, it was only that long. But
we'll get into it with this one, but
yeah, there's things to talk about here for sure. Before we get into any sort of premise, though, I want to welcome and thank some new Patreon supporters of mine and the podcast. So thank you to Renegade, Kaylee, Jared, Shelby Donnelly, and Alexander Wilford. Welcome aboard, y'all.
Welcome, y'all.
And while we're on the thank you train, also thank you to Boy Cried Wolf, who is our editor. So thank you very much to him.
Hurrah!
For anyone who would like to become a Patreon supporter, you will get early access to all of our episodes that typically will release the Friday beforehand. And you'll also, depending on what tier you're at, get access to the Cherry Picker After Dark, which, by the way, I guess like a few like changes that we're doing here, because we sort of mentioned it last week or the week before, I forget when we're doing it. But for the Cherry Picker After Dark, just because we're so strapped with like, you know, like we do this every week, and then the Cherry Picker After Dark was typically like in between that, like we would record every Tuesday, and then it'd be like, okay, we'll try to get this next one in on a Wednesday or Thursday, and it ends up being like way longer, so it's like a double or a triple episode, and it's just like this is way too much. It's a lot for all of us, like Boy Cried Wolf included. So we're just gonna now, moving forward, every month, and I think we'll typically do this on the last Tuesday of every month, that is going to be the Patreon release, the Cherry Picker After Dark. So if you are subscribed to my Patreon, you will get access to that. Otherwise, there will be the preview for it. It'll be on all the podcast platforms. It'll also be on YouTube here. So, you know, you can check it out if you don't want to see the whole thing and just get a taste of it. But for all the people who do subscribe, thank you, because you are helping out the podcast essentially, because we do this for free. So that's the only way that we turn a profit from it. So thank you to all those people, including the new ones that came aboard. With that said, with the Child's Play episodes, it's become tradition now that Edward bequeaths the premise to me to read in the Chucky voice. So Edward, you've graciously provided one for me here, so I'm gonna read it as Chucky. Here we go.
Dive in.
Set 8 years after the events of the second film, Chucky returns once again through some vague, ritual of blood mingling with plastic. Hold on. Sorry. Once again, through some vague ritual of blood mingling with plastic, while a now teenage Andy Barkley attends Kent Military Academy. Once Chucky learns of Andy's whereabouts, he travels to the school where he happens upon a new young boy named Tyler. Now, there is a new target for Chucky's soul transfer, and it's up to Andy to stop Chucky, saving Tyler from more than mere Child's Play 3. Does it work?
Yay!
When we get to
barely contain my laughter.
When we get to Bride, you're doing Tiffany. We're basically
totally.
gonna
Yeah.
who's telling this story.
Fun stuff.
But yeah, there we go. Let's jump right into it. Edward.
Yeah.
Do you want me to go first?
What do you want to know? Or go for it. What do you want to share, Zach Cherry?
Well, here's the thing. Child's Play is it's one of my two favorite horror franchises, the other one being Scream, of course. Mm-hmm. And both of those franchises are the creations of gay men. These are very queer-coded movies. They're steeped in everything LGBTQIA+, all the letters and colors of the rainbow in there. And they're the most consistent. And I think, after Scream 6, I feel like Child's Play is a more consistent franchise for me. Having said that, I know that at some point, during these rewatches, because I've watched all these movies and we've watched all the episodes that have been available of the series so far, and I know that there's going to come a point where there is which movie is the bottom of the barrel, which is going to be the worst one. And I mean, I can only speak to currently because I want a fresh perspective as I go through them. But I mean, Child's Play 3 is currently at the bottom for me, and this goes along with the 2 seasons of the show that we've covered as well. So I mean, if I was to rank everything right now, I don't know if I'd want to rank the shows in with the movies because that would be too complex. But for me it would go Child's Play 2, Child's Play, and then Child's Play 3. And the thing is, though, even though this is the worst of everything so far of revisiting, and even if it very well might be the worst in the long run, this is not a bad movie. This is I'm not bored by this movie. I'm not angered by it. I just find it to be very perfunctory. It feels very by the numbers, like early 90s horror. And just knowing the stuff that was going on behind the scenes, because John Mancini was kind of rushed into doing the script, and it actually came out, I think it was 9 months after Child's Play 2. So it is very much like a Scream to Scream 2 or Scream 5 to Scream 6 scenario here of just a movie really being pushed by the studio to get out there. And from what I read is that Don Mancini did not have the ideas. It was too soon. And you can really tell from the movie because there's nothing is particularly remarkable here. I think the biggest gimmick, if we can call it that, is that it is the setting of taking place in the military academy, and then you got the climax at the carnival. But I find with all of these movies, and very similar to Scream as well, there is some sort of theme or commentary for each one, and it makes each movie kind of unique in its own way. And for this one, there really isn't one. I mean, you could say that there's certain aspects of this movie for sure that I saw done in the newest season 2 of the show, which I felt that they did much better there because they had the opportunity to explore it and flesh those out, and there probably wasn't that studio meddling, if there was any, of just to just give us a Chucky movie. So in terms of everything, like I feel like this movie actually kind of halted the run of Child's Play movies for a while, and I don't know if that was necessarily because of Child's Play, like just the returns on the movie itself, or the fact that just the horror genre at the time was kind of failing, because this was 91. Like there were exceptions, like Silence of the Lambs obviously came out that year, and Candyman, but I mean, like by and large horror was dead until Scream reinvigorated it. So it's almost like a good thing, because I feel like if Child's Play kept going on in this direction, I feel like it would, like, would have had Child's Play 4, Child's Play 5, and it just would have been more like meaningless, just like slasher type horror, where you have like Chucky and it's just like, it's all fun and all, but there's not a lot to it. So I think my bottom line is that it feels pretty hollow at times, of just, it just sort of presents itself as the way that I see this is, if I were to tell my parents, if I were to tell my mom specifically, because I actually got my mom to watch all the movies with me a few years back when she was visiting. And for the longest time, her and my sister actually kind of poo-pooed the Child's Play franchise, or just they like stuck their nose up in the air to it. My sister loves horror, by the way, but she had this, or has this misconception of the Child's Play franchise, having never probably seen any of them, and like my mom never having seen them, and just thinking like, no, it's Child's Play, essentially. It's like, it is the title. It's not for adults. It's just like really bad horror films. So I feel that like the perception that someone might have that has never seen a Child's Play movie, I feel like this is what that movie would be for them, is Child's Play 3. At its most, like, at the Child's Play formula at its most like base example of just what it could be. And I think that even that, like I said, that movie of just Child's Play 3, it's not bad. So that's my very long-winded take.
I think you said it all, Zach. All right, thanks for listening. No, I'm just kidding.
We'll be back next week.
As far as your point, because you make quite a few, and I agree with, I think, at least most of them, if not all. But the first one I'll speak to is just in terms of like the as far as speculating about what could have happened to this franchise had they continued making movies only a year or maybe even 2 years, like apart. Like I feel like the well would have gone dry really, really soon, because there needed to be enough time for us to kind of like move through that corporate driven studio mogul thing. I mean, I think I've mentioned it on the pod before, but I feel like we haven't talked about it in a long time. I don't know how many movies from the 90s that were affected by this we've covered on the pod thus far. Yeah. But I remember feeling like the exception to the rule in horror in kind of like early to mid 90s pre-Scream was things that felt like, I don't know, like it's kind of soulless and kind of empty, and even down to I felt it with this movie, just kind of watching the opening credits, not because of the credits or the way they were shot, but because of the synthetic score that was going on. It was so like it could have been for like an independent action film, or like something low budget, like that was playing on the Sci-Fi Channel at the time. You know
what it was giving me? It was giving me Friday the 13th Part 7.
Yes,
because that was like a huge shift in just like the music, and every time, like I adore that movie, but I cannot with that score. Like because Harry Manfredini, I don't know if he was involved, or he just kind of like passed a lot of the duties off to someone new, and they were like experimenting with this new shit. But it
as far
did
as
feel
I know,
like
he
that.
covered all of the Paramount films.
Yeah.
But that said, like if you don't have access to an orchestra, or if you have a director or a studio or both kind of pushing you, saying like, we needed to go cheaper, so you have to go synthetic. So it's like, okay, I don't know, because I mean that felt kind of hollow, and it didn't seem to be establishing any kind of mood. It felt kind of like the the lowest energy level in terms of like establishing any kind of mood or putting forth any kind of cinematic effort to, ingratiate an audience. But at the same time, I think the mentality, particularly around Child's Play 3, was that these, from the people making them probably, aside from, Don Mancini, who it sounds like he was already experiencing burnout, the perception was probably like, well, we don't need to take it too seriously because, it's a doll. So, but it hadn't completely embraced like a camp route. Like, I feel like the LGBTQIA was going to become much more pronounced later, like a whole movie later. Yeah. This one, it feels like they're still like largely sticking to the drawing board. That said, I also share your sentiments as far as like this being, as far as the film's the bottom of my ranking, not because I hate it, but just because I think I enjoy it the least. The moments that I enjoy are moments and have nothing to do with like the overall essence of the movie or the way it makes me feel or what I walk away from it with. You know what I mean? There's joy
right
to be had, but it's isolated incidents, as opposed to, I really love the trajectory of Andy in this movie, or I really love the way they establish new characters, and like none of that. But that said, I'm totally open to criticism, and I have it for this movie, but it doesn't make me. I don't feel like I can completely dismiss anything that I criticize this movie about. Like, I can say something critical about it, but I can also kind of like point out what I think worked in that particular aspect, and we'll uncover those as we keep talking. But what were you going to say?
I don't remember. There was a lot of things.
Sorry.
One thing I was going to say is that just in terms of the Friday the 13th score, Harry Manfredini did 1 through 7. He didn't do 8 because they shot in Canada and they couldn't use him because they needed to get the tax credit, so they got a Canadian composer. But then he did come back for Goes to Hell and X. Totally irrelevant.
Goes to Hell has a similar kind. Goes to Hell has a similar kind of synth empty.
Oh, Goes to Hell is terrible with the score. The movie too. But
but just in terms of like the synth score, like I mean, I remember that opening credit sequence. It's a similar feel to Child's Play 3 for me, and they're kind of in the same pocket.
It's very like fast paced and just like it very frenetic, and it doesn't know which way it's going. But it's just like, I guess it's getting your heart pumping. I don't know. But I mean, like, comparing that to, like, the scores used in, like, Child's Play 1 and 2, where, it had that kind of, like, la, 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 like, just the very, like, creepy, childlike melody.
Ding, ding.
Love is a battlefield.
Love is a battlefield,
it does feel very generic here. And another thing that I noticed like throughout the movie is that there's a lot of like building up of jump scare, not even jump scares, like they're actually building up moments, but it doesn't feel like I don't even see who directed this one, but they don't work. Like it feels like time is being wasted. Like speaking of Friday the 13th, it makes me feel like we're back in Friday the 13th Part 1 watching Alice make tea, just waiting for anything to happen, because like
the director is Jack Bender, by the way. Just wanted to get that in.
What else did he do?
I'm looking at it. He's done a lot of television, of course. It looks like he did 2 episodes of Game of Thrones. I'm scrolling backwards. He did 4 episodes of The Sopranos. Did a bunch. Did 2 episodes of Ally McBeal, 3 episodes of Felicity. I'm looking for any other horror movies. He looked like he did a TV movie in '96 called Sweet Dreams. Another one called A Face to Die For. He looks like he was a big movie of the week kind of guy.
I feel like if you look at someone's IMDb credits, is Child's Play 3 one of his top credits, by the way?
Yes.
Yeah. If that's his one of his top credits.
It's the third one.
And he doesn't have. There's no other apparent horror movies. This is probably someone who's not a horror director, and that would make sense if this is like a Universal just like really getting their hooks into it and just being like, whatever, we're just going to find someone from the pile of directors that we have on the books here. And that was a lot of movies, and I think that's it is very emblematic of just the time, but also just like the moments like this, because it's directors who don't understand the genre, who are, faking it. Like they understand it, because the scene at the beginning, like the prologue, I guess we can call it, with the return of, is it Sullivan?
Yes.
Yes, who is the only returning actor besides Brad Dourif doing the voice of Chucky. I enjoyed seeing him back, because
Me too.
They needed to take care of him. He had to get his comeuppance. But yeah, like I liked the setup for that scene.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like every time I watch it, I can't remember what happens to him. Because like I've seen this movie so many times, but I just like it feels so generic the way it plays out that I'm just like, wait, is one of the two Chucky dolls Chucky? Because I can't remember what happens, and then he gets like the darts thrown at him, and that's cute and funny and all. But apparently there was an alternate opening that they didn't film it, but they were about to, and it was going to be two siblings that break into the factory, and somehow like disturb something, and that's what gets the thing going. And there was going to be a security guard working at the factory who presumably probably would have been killed by Chucky, would have been like the first casualty. And that security guard was going to be played by John Ritter, who who didn't show up in like he's in Bride of Chucky. So they amended it, because literally the day before they're just like, we're not gonna do this opening, we're doing a different scene. One of the kids was actually played by his son, Jason Ritter, who we discussed recently. He played was it Will?
Will
in Freddy vs. Jason, which is John Ritter's son. So unfortunately for them, they didn't get to do that. But I think like from the sounds of it, like I prefer what they went with. Like I preferred seeing Sullivan come back and getting his comeuppance there. But it's still like it goes back to what I was saying before. Like everything feels so perfunctory. It's just like we're going through the motions of doing this thing, and then we get to the academy.
Right. Well, maybe it has something to do with the fact that, like, it doesn't sound like there was much prep time. If they let John Ritter know the day before he's not working, I wonder how much prep time they had for the scene, how much of it was actually scripted. I wonder if they pulled, like, an Adrian King on the actor playing Sullivan and just had him kind of move around the set and just told him, just kind of, there's toys.
He should have...
Throw this around your neck and go, and we got some toy darts. Just pretend we just threw them at you. Go, like maybe
he should have had a nightmare. He should have, even though he didn't experience any of it, like just laying on the couch.
Well... That would have been funny. He flashes back to things he wasn't there for in the first movie.
I will say, just of this scene, that the one thing that I do appreciate about it is that Chucky is using toys as weapons.
Yeah.
Because absolutely. I don't remember him really doing that a whole lot in the first two.
Not a lot.
Mostly his thing, which is like completely absent from that movie, is that he is gaslighting Andy. And obviously that's not happening here. I wouldn't even say he's really doing it with Tyler. So it's just like it's at least nice in this opening scene to see him using toys to like murder people with. And I think that might go back to what I was saying before. It was just like the studio treating Child's Play as like how they perceive it. Like I bet no one from the studio had ever even watched Child's Play 1 or 2. They're just like, oh well, it's a doll, so he uses toys to kill people. Or whatever,
But allowing that kind of like childlike aspect turned on its head with a doll killing you with a yo-yo and with darts and whatever. I mean, actually, it's interesting because the darts keyed into a fear. I had a dartboard growing up, and I remember I had the dartboard on my bedroom door, the inside part of my bedroom door, because that's what kids on television did. They'd have a dartboard and it'd be on like their door for whatever reason. And I always wondered, like, how do they not, like, if somebody opens the door without knocking and you're throwing the dart, like, what do you do? Do you just, like, go to the hospital? Do you hope it doesn't hit them in the eye? Do you, because it was always at face level, too, in, like, shows like Saved by the Bell and Out of This World and other little teenage shows where they had a bedroom that you could see a dartboard in. But anyway, so darts going into people was something that I kind of, like, had morbid fantasies about before, like, pre-adolescence. So by the time I saw this movie, I think I was about probably 14 or 15 when I saw this movie for the first time. And I remember thinking, yeah, it's not exactly like stepping on a nail with your bare feet and everybody in the movie theater winces, but it had some kind of, it evoked some kind of response for me. Another thing I liked from Sullivan, because he's not long for this movie, so I just want to get it all out. I also just kind of like appreciated the fact that he's so doubling and tripling down on his villainy from just to let us know that the character has not evolved at all and feels no remorse. In fact, like when he calls like children consumer trainees, and the fact that he can talk about Andy Barclay and say no one remembers Andy Barclay, no one cares, and I'm just like, fuck, like what a piece of shit. Like he is kind of like the epitomal 1990s movie villain, which is the money grubbing, just like completely greedy, dehumanizing multimillionaire who just has dollar signs in his eyes and thinks people are expendable.
Well, he's like Scrooge over there. It's just like it's his employee's anniversary, and he's just like, take that report, you can look it over after dinner.
Right.
There was one thread that I felt like it lingered, and it was like odd because the movie never comes back to it. But I guess is it one of the lawyers for the company? I'm not sure what his position was, but he was the guy who was trying to advise Sullivan against it, because he's just like, if we have another one of these incidents, like that, the company can go under, and it really felt like in that moment, because he's just sort of like, well, we're moving forward sort of thing, and I was just like, is he going to fire him? But nothing came of that. And I thought like, is this a character that could potentially, because he knows there's something that he knows about Chucky and is going to like show up at the academy later. Like, he might be the Buster character from Misery, who has his own like side quest only to show up and get like blown away at the last second when you think he's going to save the day. But yeah, none of that happened. It was just like, it was a very like the whole prologue to the military school stuff is just like, it's just like a complete non sequitur, and nothing ever comes up from it again. And the toys are now in like mass production to the point where there's commercials again, but it's just like the CEO of this company just died. I mean, he was murdered. He was strangled. I don't know how mysterious that is. But like the company's going ahead, like everything's business as usual. So
of course they have investors.
Yeah,
cha-ching, cha-ching.
Yeah.
But I'm also thinking like the only other thing I think I appreciated about that sequence, or at least the way it rounds out, I really appreciate someone having that level of kind of disbelief or it just interest in Charles Lee Ray as an entity within the movie at all. Finally kind of being confronted by the doll before before the fatal blow, and actually kind of realizing, holy shit, this doll is alive, and then dying. That's always kind of gratifying to me, no matter how like ill-paid.
I think it was always done better with Phil, like, how's it hanging, Phil?
How's it hanging, Phil? There are no how's it hanging, Phil moments for me in this movie. There's
no moments, but there's some great lines. I would say that because after he kills Sullivan, he says, I believe I'm trying to find it, but I'll just wing it. It's like, nothing like a good strangulation to get the circulation going. And then because the barber, who's played by Andrew Robinson from Hellraiser and Dirty Harry. Yeah. Have you ever seen Dirty Harry?
Right. No, I haven't, but I know he's in
it. He's vile in that movie, but and he's vile in this too. But and he's vile when he's like Uncle Frank in Hellraiser. But he's great.
Yeah. He's great at weird. Yeah.
Yeah, he's great in this, but he has the moment because he's like, "Presto, you're bald," and then the line that Chucky says when he slices his throat with the razor, he's like, "Presto, you're dead."
See, again, like, The criticism and then the bonus. Like, the criticism for me is the presto, you're bald. No one that leaves that chair bald. Did that bother you? That he's, like, mocking these kids?
Well,
It would have been so much more effective to me if he could have literally shaved their heads, like, to the skin, or at least to the stubble, and then gone presto, you're bald. Because there's something so beyond... I mean, they're all male presenting, so I guess it's emasculating, but just humiliating about that. And also that, like, someone taking that level of glee out of having that much control over your person. But so I was just kind of like, okay, no truth in advertising. Maybe they were worried about shaving the kids' heads and then having to do another take, and their heads were already shaved. I don't know, but
well, because even like Andy's, like, cause he didn't get like a buzz cut or anything. It was just there was still like enough to like create some volume. Yeah,
totally. Like, my hair's shorter than Andy's hair after it gets cut in this, but
because the whole thing is like, because when he's going through the cafeteria and just like running his hand over everyone's head, he's just like,
oh god, just running his hands on the heads of these like underage boys too. I was not comfortable.
Well, the best part of that is
when
you have this De Silva, because she's, I guess the girls aren't subject to that, so she's just sort of like, you know,
tossing her hair Marsha Brady style, backwards,
waving it at him, taunting him, like, you can't get this shit. You know?
And that's just inherent sexism, I guess, because it made sense to me, I think, at the time, just thinking like, well, they're not going to cut the girls' hair. Although now, you know, watching it with 2023 eyes, I'm just kind of like, well, why not? If what he's, I don't know if it's something that's the motivation for the military to get the guys to cut their hair short, is the whole thing about like getting their heads gripped like the Holy Roman Empire and their throats slit and whatever. But like, if the girls have long hair, like, that's the first thing somebody can go for if you're in battle, having it pulled back. But I guess they're not going to battle; they're just military school. It's a movie.
It makes me think of that video of I guess it's a meme of like the girl working in McDonald's or something, and she like has her hair in a ponytail, and she's at the milkshake machine and like flips around, and then the ponytail gets stuck in the thing and starts like pulling her in to the point where everyone has to like come in to unplug the machine, which is like falling off. Yeah, it was terrifying.
Like Beyonce with a fan, like on the edge of the stage when she's like headbanging and her hair gets stuck in the fan and they have to untangle it, like, while she's on.
And then it's literally like Hellraiser.
Right.
Your hair, your scalp, your entire skin.
All of your skin just shorn off. Yeah. But anyway, that was one thing that bothered me about it. But I did also, I remember seeing this movie for the first time in my teens. I was around the same age when I saw it that Justin Whalen was when he shot it. Mm-hmm. And even though it was disappointing seeing them go forward with an Andy who isn't, you know, my Andy Barclay. Yeah. As far as like replacements go, I think he's among the stronger in terms of slasher franchises replacing actors. Like, I thought about it. I'm not going to bring them up now. We'll bring them up when we cover those movies. Yeah. But as far as recasting roles, if actors don't return for whatever reason, a lot of times they kind of miss the mark. And with Justin Whalen, I felt like there was this inherent sensitivity about him, because he also doesn't say a whole lot and he doesn't do a whole lot. He's an incredibly passive character in this movie, which maybe he was just as passive in 1 and 2, but because it was a child, I think it makes a little bit more sense for him to have kind of more of his power taken away. Yeah. I felt like there were a lot of moments in the script where they were creating obstacles. Sorry, Don Mancini, if this was you, and if it wasn't, apologies. But like, where obstacles were kind of put in front of Andy just so he could have obstacles, because otherwise the movie's over. If everybody believes Andy, and if people see Chucky and believe it and speak up about it, then they can actually all kind of band together and take him. But that's not the movie that they wanted to make. They wanted to make a movie where that had a climax, I guess. Yeah, and who knows if it was Don Mancini's idea to age up Andy, or the studio. I don't know to do that. I'm sure that information is out there. I don't know. I have the Blu-ray here, or the 4K, I should say. Yeah. How many special features do they have on the new Blu-ray release? There is a commentary. It's 4K, right? Oh, there's a commentary by Jack Bender. Ooh.
And there's a commentary by producer Robert Latham Brown.
Okay.
But
I would
no,
love to hear
there's
those.
interviews with Don Mancini.
Right.
But yeah, I got all the Scream Factory 4K releases with the fancy new artwork, which I can't even get into the case here. There we go, the slit, as they call it, for people watching on YouTube.
It makes it look like a much more epic movie.
Well, he's got his face sliced off there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, and I need to-
by a blade that would never be real in like a carnival fun house. That's funny.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Are
just
you
imagining
aware
the
of the?
lawsuits.
Well, actually, before I get to that, because we're still just talking about this, the Justin Whalen of it all. So I'll put a pin in that. But yeah, with Andy, because could you imagine Alex Vincent coming in and like say he was still in military school, but I mean he's like Tyler's age, like he just came in and because they obviously still have younger children at Kent. So could you imagine the movie but with Andy as like Alex Vincent's age at the time?
Again, like I can only imagine that making it. They wouldn't even have to change a thing, and it would make it more interesting because he would have been younger than Justin Whalen, by a few years. But it's significant. Like if he's, because I think Justin Whalen was what, like 15, 16 when he shot this, and like Alex Vincent would have been what, like 11, 12, maybe.
How old was he? He was 8 in the first one,
And
right?
that was 1988, so he would have been 11. He would have been like 11 or so.
Yeah.
See that? Yeah, an 11-year-old boy going through all of this, that would have made it, just as far as the risk factor, it would have made everything a lot more tense. Seeing things happen to a child versus, a minor, but, a teenager. I don't know. There's something about it that just, even though I remember I had a huge crush on Justin Whalen at the time, and I kind of liked him, like when he was scared, because it just made his eyes bigger, and I loved his lovely full lips and him kind of like pushing, just kind of like crawling across the floor going, no, you're dead,
Did he get his like Achilles slice though? Like that's
Yes! And
And
it always, again, oh God, that's such a trigger for me. Like, I hate that Achilles slice thing.
Yeah.
Oh!
But then like literally
yeah,
the next
that's what
scene they're
happened.
running around in that.
Yeah,
That
they don't address
circle.
it. So I guess he didn't really cut through it, although my imagination always goes there. God, I'm holding my Achilles tendons while I'm telling you this. But it really bothers me.
Yeah.
But maybe for the first time ever while I was screening it for this pod, I was just thinking like, oh, maybe he just like cut him, just like paper cut, but didn't like slice,
Yeah.
the
That's
Achilles
another
tendon
example.
in half, the way I was
That's
imagining.
another example of a scene where they're just like it goes on really long. Like they're just like trying to build up
Yeah.
this suspense, and it's not like it just feels so generic
No.
that it doesn't work
Yeah.
when Chucky does eventually like do the Achilles slice. But fun trivia about Justin Whalen. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if you knew, but just for everyone listening and watching, Justin Whalen auditioned for the role of Billy Loomis in Scream.
Oh my God.
And I believe there's, it might be on the DVD. I think it's him who's doing like a test screening with Nev Campbell or someone who's portraying Sydney. So I think that there's footage of him. It might not be him, but I know that he did audition for the role.
Right.
And Skeet Ulrich actually auditioned to play Andy in Child's Play 3.
Oh my God. That is so crazy.
Could you imagine Skeet as Andy?
No, not at all.
No, and like, I'm sure if he had played Andy, who knows if he would have even gone on to play Billy Loomis.
Billy.
Like that's the thing. Like any, like small thing that happens in the world, it's like what is it like the chaos theory or whatever? Just like
Yeah.
one little thing can change the trajectory of everything.
Right.
There might be all these. It's like the multiverse of just like. There is a Scream movie where Justin Whalen did play Billy Loomis, and there is
Right.
Skeet Ulrich played Andy Barclay, and then they never brought Alex Vincent back, and now Skeet Ulrich is still playing Andy Barclay all these years later.
Like, I can imagine Skeet playing a much darker, even at that young age. Like, still, like, there's something brooding behind those eyes that I think would have made Andy Barclay a lot more haunted if he had played him in Child's Play 3. And likewise with Justin Whalen, if he had been Billy Loomis, it would have been a very different Billy Loomis. And he would have been, I think, more akin to like a Richie character, or like, you know, the sweet, kind of like unassuming guy who you want to trust. And then once he reveals what a shit he is, you're like, fuck you. But anyway.
I don't even...
Much less suspect.
Yeah, I'm looking at Skeet Ulrich's filmography because I was just trying to figure out what was like his first role. Because we know that he did The Craft before Scream, but I don't really remember. And he was in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles playing Thug, uncredited, in 1990. So yeah, I'd always be interested to just see like them in like big role breakout performances.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so fun fact with Justin Whalen, Skeet Ulrich there, that coulda, woulda, shoulda, whatever. But yeah, what I was gonna say before, because we were talking about the carnival scene, because we just jump all over the place here. Did you know about the controversy behind this movie?
No.
In the UK specifically, like, there was groups and parents who had a vendetta against Child's Play 3. I don't know what it was, and they probably had never even seen it. They're just kind of like, fuck that movie, like, we have to get it banned. So there was this there was two cases, actually. The more infamous one was about two 10-year-old boys, and they kidnapped a 2-year-old, and they took him to some train tracks, and I think they like beat him to death, or I don't know if like they had just like left him tied on the tracks or something. But anyway, it had come to light that the act itself, people felt was too reminiscent of, like, I guess the end of Child's Play 3, where there's like the roller coaster, the cars going on there. And for some reason or whatever, someone had invented this lie and just said that, oh, these boys had watched Child's Play 3 and they were influenced by the movie specifically.
Oh, God.
And there was investigations going into this to the point, like the UK was trying to ban Child's Play 3. And it was investigated, and they found out that, like, the father of one of the children had rented it. Like, there was records showing that he had rented it. But the children were asked about it, and they're just like, I guess they had said, like, they'd never seen the movie, they'd never heard of it, and they don't like watching horror movies. So it's just like the whole thing was just like, it was this like big like media frenzy. And there was another incident with kids. I can't remember how that one played out. It wasn't as mainstream, I guess, but in the end, it did affect Child's Play 3's, I guess, sort of like release in the UK, because in spite of the fact that the movie was kind of cleared of any onus on like any of these crimes that had been committed or have been an influence towards them, video stores and retailers still took it upon themselves to remove it from the shelves and not sell or rent the movie. So I think for the longest time, it wasn't even available in the UK, from my understanding. And there's a system, like back in the day, it was called Video Nasties. We might have talked about it before at one point, because I know that Tenebrae was on one of the Video Nasties, so we might have talked about it in that episode. But it was a short list of just like these movies that were specifically just banned from production or distribution in certain regions, like specifically in the UK. So Child's Play 3 never got on to that Video Nasties, but just because of word of mouth, it was I guess, hard to find for the longest time.
Oh my God. No, I didn't know any. I know shockingly little about this particular installment in the franchise, just because every copy I've ever had of the movie, there was never any kind of additional material that was included. Even I have the most recent I have is the Chucky collection. I have the box set here, but the one that goes up until Curse of Chucky, that then became made irrelevant because they released that yellow DVD box set that had Cult in it as well.
Yeah.
But
which
but
is now irrelevant because we got the 4Ks.
Yeah, right. So now I'm anxious because, interestingly enough, I think I'd probably buy, if I were going to buy any 4K of the Child's Play franchise, I'd probably lead with Child's Play 3 because I am thirsty for knowledge about like that movie. I would watch those commentaries and watch the interviews with Don Mancini, but that is insane. Like, get a life, United Kingdom. No offense to anybody who's watching this. You're watching or listening to us and you're in the UK, we good. But
this was a long time ago because this movie is 32 years old. Crazy to think it's 32 years old this week. So a lot has changed in that time because video nasties are not around as far as I know.
Thank God.
There's no censorship on that level.
Right.
I mean, I could be wrong, but as far as I know.
Water under the bridge.
Yeah.
But but that is insane to me. Like, I mean, I just people looking for a scapegoat and finding, and I know it still happens, and we do it out here in the States all the time. But well, I say we, I don't mean myself, but I mean I know that
the royal
country, there's a lot of shitheads in my country who love a scapegoat and who love
there's shitheads everywhere.
To make up whatever they need to in order to like suit some kind of like agenda to silence others or to impede other people's creativity, and it pisses me the fuck off.
And what's funny is like I feel like this movie, there's nothing overly graphic or violent about it.
No, this is tame.
It's very
so tame.
It's very tame. Because there's 7 deaths in it. Most of them are just kind of like incidental, like the heart attack. It's more so just
a hand.
Yeah, the hand coming out. It's also I believe it's the only Child's Play movie where there are no female victims. So they're all men. Not that really makes a difference in terms of like the violence or the graphicness of it, but it's because one movie that comes to mind that we did recently was Psycho 2, because I know we were having this debate and I said like it's pretty graphic like in some parts, or just like why it doesn't seem like a TV movie to me, because there's shots of like the knives going into hands, like when he's like holding it and she's pulling the knife back and it's slicing through his hands, or when he stabs what's her face in the mouth, like it's all like
Miles.
Dummies,
Yeah,
but it was like it's really well done to a point where it just like it looks icky, and there's none of that here, like and this is a movie that came out almost 10 years later, so I know that it's not necessarily true of the times, because I feel like a lot of movies in the 90s were getting more graphic and more violent, like they were just kind of playing on that like ultra violence, because like you look at Halloween 6, Curse of Michael Myers, like that one is nasty. I that's one of the reasons I love that movie, because it is like it gets brutal, like the violence in it is like extreme, and it's like comparatively when you look at Child's Play 3, there's nothing in it that is like even suggestible. So it's crazy that like anyone would like kind of launch that sort of agenda against this movie specifically. It just feels very petty.
Especially when you think just like a couple years later, Pulp Fiction's going to be nominated at the Academy Awards, and it makes this movie look like kids stuff.
Makes it look like Child's Play.
It does make it look like Child's Play, but another thing that I because we already kind of mentioned her, but I also want to like just bring attention to her. She's introduced, and I like her. It's De Silva I'm talking about, Kristen.
Call me Kristen.
Kristen, yeah. I like her. What I don't like is the way she's handled, because here we just, noted that her first name is Kristen. We don't find that out until we're an hour into the movie, and she's still kind of like pussyfooting around with Andy, like, they're still kind of like casting side glances at each other and almost flirting, like, and I couldn't help but think, particularly during this screening, but I think it often. I've seen this movie over 10 times, and every time I watch it, I feel like I start to kind of like develop in my head ideas for what I think might have improved it. And one of the major things is, if De Silva could have found out much earlier about Chucky and could have actually found out Andy knew about Chucky, and the two of them bond. I mean, again, I'm using what I identify as one of my favorite franchises, the Nightmare formula, where, a bunch of kids find out about the bad guy, band together, find out his story, how do we kill him, and what do we do, and then they all go about it, and then one by one they start dropping, and then the ones left standing are the survivors.
And in a way, like, because that's where I feel like, the seeds are planted here for ideas. Like, this is very much to me like the Scream 6 of the Child's Play franchise, where there's a lot of like really like broad ideas that, I mean, like, if you hone in on, like, you could really make something good out of it, and they're just not really followed through with. But I feel like the things that they do kind of give us like hints of, like little nuggets, are what they eventually have done in the series, because there's the scene where they're at the shooting range, and I mean, it's just even followed up when they're all standing in formation, and that's when we meet De Silva for the first time, because she's sort of like sticking up for what's his face, the roommate. Whitehurst, because she whispers under her breath, like, "You asshole," and that's a great scene. Like, that's why she's like immediately likable, because of that rebellion, and just like and owning it as well. But then it's followed up with this scene at the shooting range, and you get a sense of there's actually this rapport between her and Whitehurst. Like, they're actually buddies in a way. Like, it's almost like they're misfits at this academy, because she's, she doesn't want to be there. That's kind of like her story of just like, because he says, like, is there anything you can't do? And she's like, well, I can't seem to get kicked out of this place. Yes, so it's sort of setting her up as this outcast character, and Whitehurst is an outcast by default, and they seem to know each other because they're just talking to each other like they're friends. And then you have Andy, the new guy, come in, and it's just like, oh my god, this is like where this could have gone is what they've done with Jake, Devin Evans, and Lexi in the series. So it's just like, Don Mancini at least like had the seeds planted here, and I feel like you're absolutely right. If they had known about it sooner and like followed through with it. And I think that going back to what I said before, because now you've kind of like opened up my mind to this, if they had brought Alex Vincent back, and he was 11 years old in this situation, that would have been really fun to just see Alex Vincent and then these other outcasts kind of band together, these like 11, 12-year-olds, because at that point we haven't really seen, like, that would have been the way to kind of like infuse something new into this and make it like, add a commentary to it, because we haven't seen Andy interact with his peers in a way, because like in the first movie it was mostly just him and his mom and Aunt Maggie and the doctors at the hospital, and then in the sequel it was Joanne and Phil and Kyle, and arguably like the relationship with Kyle was the best aspect of it. They didn't even mention Kyle in this movie, did they?
I know, that's another thing. You sorry, just a little tangent, because like you mentioned, and you've said it many times before, and it's not that I disagree with you. I agree with you. I think it is an incredibly consistent franchise, and I'm eternally grateful for that. But that said, how much better would it have been if, in addition to like a photo of his mother and him when he was a boy, the Alex Vincent, Andy, that Justin Whalen's putting on his shelf to show that time had passed, if there had been some kind of mention or allusion to Kyle, like, and I have, I had this foster sister who's trying to get me out of here, something like, let us know she's out there and that they're still in touch, or that he's writing a letter to her, something.
Absolutely. I don't like the Kyle erasure from Child's Play 3, but with what I was saying, is just like we haven't seen Andy interacting with other children his age. Like we saw it in 2 of just like that bully microchip or whatever he called him when he flicked his ear.
Yes.
But I think that would have been a perfect scenario to have gone into Child's Play 3, and I think that it would have made the movie enormously better and interesting in a military school setting with these outcast 11-year-olds, and I think, you know what, whether it was just the fact that Don Mancini just wasn't given the time to develop these ideas, or the studio maybe he did, and the studio was like, no, we have to age them up because we have to like sexify them, like, you know, De Silva has to be sexy, she's gotta, you know, he needs to have a girlfriend who, you know, they make out with or whatever, because we're trying to sell sex, we're trying to sell this to teens. So that might have been the reasoning for it, and in that case, like, this is why, like, you don't rush art.
No.
And
in any incarnation, like, I mean, even if you're going for camp and everything like that, doesn't mean it must be rushed. It means, okay, allow them to flex their muscles in camp, allow them to flex their horror muscles, like whatever it is, like that, to walk the line, give them the funds and the opportunity to produce a product. But again, like, we're still talking the heels of the 80s. Like, I'm thinking about, like, here we made mention of, like, the Paramount era of Friday the 13th, and at the time Paramount didn't care. They were embarrassed that they were making money off of this franchise, the Friday the 13th and Jason movies, because you know, horror was still like this, you know, shame stepchild that, you know, you don't mention. You know, you just keep you Harry Potter them under the stairs, and, you know, they can come out when they got some money. And it just makes me think, like, at this juncture, maybe Don Mancini, who I wouldn't be surprised if he was experiencing some level of burnout, just kind of did the best he could, and then just kind of left it up to them, hoping, you know, wiser minds would prevail in the production and post-production of it all. And unfortunately, that I don't think that it happened exactly. I think there were a lot of opportunities for things to be developed. Maybe if it hadn't been, what's his name? John Bender? Jack Bender. I was going to say John Bender, but that's Breakfast Club. Jack Bender. Maybe if I don't know. See, that's the thing. I would love to hear his commentary to know, like, what did this mean to you? Like, were you like Jack Shoulder with Nightmare 2, just kind of going, I didn't know what to do with this. I couldn't make any sense of it, so I just thought, this is scary and we'll make the movie. Like, that's always how I hear Jack Shoulder in my head. So, like, was he just a harangued, you know, man just trying to do, or did he, like, you know, was it a paycheck and he just didn't care? He figured, like, it's a horror movie. Kids come and see these on the weekends. You know, we'll have a great opening weekend box office, and then everything beyond that is gravy. I wonder. Yeah. But,
I mean, I just assumed that you knew all the facts about Child's Play 3, because
wouldn't you? Yeah.
No, yeah. Had I known you didn't, I might have taken the time to invest in some of those special features and just the commentary to get a better idea. But we're not like a great podcast. We don't do all the research.
Well, we also don't need to just rehash. Like, I mean, I'm sure there are people listening who have access to that Blu-ray, who know the answers to a lot of these questions, but, you know, because they know the answers already, like, what good is it just listening to more people just sitting here going, like, so that thing you heard on this Blu-ray, here's that thing again. Like, we've got a point of view here. I like that. I like knowing your feelings and your attitude towards what you do know, and me too.
Thanks for validating
that's what
us.
I tell myself.
Really
I've sat through too many podcasts where people rehash history to the point where I get to a particular movie, like The Exorcist or something, that I've heard the history over and over and over again, and I'll listen to a podcast and go, well, they got that wrong. That's not correct. And they're just talking in facts. And I'm like, you're getting the facts wrong. So the very foundation that you've laid for the reason for this podcast to exist doesn't even there. At least we're not trying to pretend like, here's the history of Child's Play 3. It's just Zach and Eddie talking, hashing it out, points of view.
It'll be like 50 years from now, if we're still podcasting, we'll be like the old stodgy, like who are the Waldorf and Statler, just like, yes. Child's Play 3.
We'll just be making bad puns at the expense of
like,
all the
who are these old people, and what the fuck is Child's Play 3?
As long as we got a back seat, a box seat in the
Yeah.
theater, I'm cool. Like,
Did-
yeah, that's what I want.
Speaking of the Chucky series, did you see the teaser for the new season?
No, because you know me, I like to go in blind. I saw that it happened, and
Well, it
everybody's
doesn't.
going
Yeah,
nuts
there's
for
nothing.
it,
There's
so.
no, like everything that's in it.
Yeah, but
is,
the only way to find that out is to watch it. So it's like, well, I'll see it eventually.
like it's just a
See it after the
promotional thing.
fact.
All right, well,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm very curious as to the direction that they go.
Yeah, me too.
And I think that's the great thing about Don Mancini is that he's so invested in this community of, I mean, not just like the horror community and the LGBTQ community, and the Chucky Child's Play community, but like he's like, you know, he has his finger on the pulse. He has his ear to the ground. You know, he's listening to things. He sees his own work that he does and he responds to it. It's just like, you know what, we did this. I don't really like it. We need to fine tune things and go off in like this direction and stuff. Like he, not having like listened to him actually speak to this, but just based on, you know, every new incarnation or just sequel or what have you, there's an improvement in some ways of just going in a different direction. And not to say that like the Chucky movies get better and better as they go on, because there are missteps, but I feel like he always corrects the course. And even if like with this movie in particular, like he definitely did that. He got the opportunity to come back and do Bride of Chucky. And you know, I have issues with that movie as well, but you know, largely that is the movie that kind of reinvigorated the franchise as well, because it introduced Jennifer Tilly and took that off onto like the Child's Play or Chucky as we know it today. So, you know, I think that he saw with Child's Play 3 that, you know, what was happening here if they had continued down this path. It was like Stab sequels. You know, it was like what parents thought Scream was.
Time travel.
Yeah.
Time travel.
Have we done time travel in Chucky yet?
No. I mean, we've done flashbacks, but not legitimate like time travel.
I mean,
no.
I would not hate it, because I feel like Don Mancini would find a way to make it work.
Well, if Christopher Landon directs, you know, a few of the episodes in season 3 or 4 of the Chucky series, or if they ever do a feature film again and he directs it, then, you know, because he's a fan of time travel.
Edward, are you suggesting that Scream 7 is going to have time travel in it?
Have time travel?
It was supposed to be the 5th one, but now it'll be the 7th.
Yeah, see, it can't happen, because the joy will be wrenched out of it. Like, people will be like, well, actually, it's not supposed to happen in the 7th movie. It's supposed to happen in the 5th movie, and there was no time travel in the 5th movie. But you know what all they have to do? Time travel back to the 5th movie. There you go. That's how you do it.
They'll time travel back to Scream 3 and rescue Parker Posey from behind a mirror.
Oh my God, that'd be fun. See, I'd appreciate that. Yeah, save all the people who we want to be alive, and then just kind of put them in an arena, a Woodsboro arena, and have them all try to attack each other. But Child's Play. No, I agree with you in terms of Don Mancini's presence. I think from here on out, actually, I won't speak to the quality of the films because that's subjective. But for me, his presence, I think, becomes more and more apparent and clear as far as the spirit of these movies as they progress. Like, I think once we hit the 5th one and move from there, it largely feels, this is the illusion I get, that Don Mancini is the one in control, is the driver of this vehicle, is the one seeing the vision through and making the decisions, and not just because he's directing them, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I mean, it did come at the expense of, you know, straight to video and television.
Sure.
But I mean, in a way, like if you know, these big studios look at the returns on this and just like the popularity and even like, dare I say, the Rotten Tomatoes scores, because I believe the first season like got a fresh rating, but it just shows that like people do love Chucky. They still love Chucky, and they love Chucky even more when it's in the right hands. So I hope that, if there are any studio execs that did not see Don Mancini's vision for the franchise at any point, and kind of threw him out the back door or whatever, that they're now kicking themselves because they missed out on what the franchise could have done for a movie studio.
Yeah, there was one line in this movie that I never heard before, because I do have to admit I check out often with this movie. The first time I tried to screen it a couple nights ago, I kept falling asleep, and I just turned it off. I told myself I'll just start again tomorrow, and I did. And I stayed awake, but my mind kept wandering. But I was checked in with this particular moment. I turned on the subtitles too. Sometimes that helps. If I can read the dialogue, it's like, oh, one more thing to do. Okay, that'll engage my brain. And I saw as De Silva and her friend, I don't remember the name, were her girlfriend were like looking through Andy's file or whatever, and they found out, his backstory. And De Silva just says like, foster homes, no wonder he's so quiet. I was just kind of like, okay. I mean, I guess that makes a certain kind of sense, but I wish I knew more about her. Like, were you in the foster program? Do you have parents? Like, were you just, I mean, just to get back, because we were unpacking the De Silva of it all, like, and the potential for this character. Yeah. This is kind of like fundamentally like an example for me of wasting De Silva this way. Here, I love that you brought up like all the ways that we get introduced to her handling her rifle like out in the yard, while they're doing, I don't know what you call it. Well, the people yell at you, and you're standing in formation. And then like later when she's at the range and she's teaching Andy like about like shooting with both eyes open and everything like that, just like in Pocahontas. And then she even is the one when Andy and her, I think it's after they see Shelton. Is it? Oh no, who has an actual gun that she takes away from them? See, I can't even remember now. Someone is dead and they have a gun on them. Oh, it's the cop. It's the cop in the carnival. He's dead. He's on the floor. Andy and De Silva see him, and Andy's like, "Oh man, come on, we better go. He could be, getting away or something like that." She's like, "Hold on." She goes for the cop's gun like a smart person. And, checks that it's loaded, and they move on and everything, and she's the one with it. And then immediately within, like, a few minutes, gets taken out, like, falls down, immobilized. Here, Andy, take this. So it's like now Andy gets the benefit of her training and of her, being smart and resourceful enough to, like, grab this gun and take it with her to defeat this strangler, this Lakeshore Strangler. And it just kind of pissed me off that she's so resourceful and independent and reliable, like just really competent as a character as far as taking care of herself, almost to the point where she's too competent, so we have to take her out because there's no reason for Andy to do anything. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's kind of like a corner. I don't know who painted them into that corner, but somebody painted the whole movie into that corner, and it didn't need to be. I actually would have loved to have seen De Silva, separate from Andy. And the only reason she can't, like maybe she wounds Chucky, but then the only reason she can't do the killing blow is because she's not with Chucky at the crucial moment. Andy is. It just felt like, again, a lot of things being introduced and not fully utilized. It would have been nice if things could have been seen through. There's a way to make a very interesting and compelling movie out of the pieces that have been put into play, and I'm feeling like maybe I'll blame Jack Bender. I need to listen to his commentary to know what wall he was against. Maybe he, clock's always ticking when you're directing and stuff like that. So I don't know, but I
also like the way the movie ends. It's like it's such a downer.
Oh God!
As well, because first of all, we're not getting the typical like. It doesn't even end on like the little cliffhanger of just like, is Chucky still alive, or like where's Chucky's body part. It's just like Andy gets in the cop car and he's like, don't worry, I've been here before. It's just like, you haven't been here like as a teenager though, but okay, like it's
Yeah.
just it's a very bleak ending, and then it just closes with the carnival lights going out and like someone sweeping shit up, and I'm like, oh, are we gonna see like a piece of Chucky or something? No, nothing.
Right.
They're
No.
literally just sweeping
No.
up popcorn, and then the credits come up, and
It's like the it's the epitomal shrug ending. The movie is literally just kind of looking at you, going,
get the fuck out of here.
And I guess that's it. That's all, folks. Thanks.
Yeah.
Come back again. Yeah, I mean, even in the things leading up to that, there are things that logistically, and maybe I don't know, maybe this sounds like nitpicking, but it occurred to me when when little Tyler loses his footing, or Tyler. See, I don't care. This kid, he used to annoy me to no end because, again, underwritten, and I didn't like the whole, again,
Don't swear,
conflict being
Charles.
introduced. Yeah. Oh God, stupid. And it's like,
Children, kids that age love to curse. Like, you're not gonna convince me that this kid doesn't like when like he hears like other people swear.
or even if he's like, there's a way to make it endearing. Like, if a kid that age is uncomfortable with swearing and they just kind of like, lower their head, like something wrong is going on, then I'm going to feel, like some kind of like affinity for that kid. I'm going to be like, oh, they're sensitive. But the fact that he's there going, don't swear, Charles. I'm like, oh, kill him. Chucky. Kill him. But he needs his body because he needs to like, ade due dumbella. I get it. But then the conflict is introduced solely for conflict being introduced, like when Andy's trying to warn him in the mess hall and tell him that Chucky is bad and he's bad news, and believe me, I know. And she's like, you're just jealous because Chucky wants to be my friend now. And then he shuts him out and just goes into the video game for no reason. I'm just like, kid, what? And it's not his fault. It's not the actor's fault, and it's not even the character's fault. It's the underwriting. It's just, it's painful to sit through for me, because it's just like, let's just make the kid bratty all of a sudden for no reason.
A lot of the plot feels forced here, and I think even the way that Chucky himself kind of rationalizes this, because it's just like,
yeah.
I mean, I get that he has this long, sordid history with voodoo that is like continues to be expanded upon in future installments. This movie doesn't really. This might be one of like the least. It goes into like his backstory of just like of anything, just in terms of like the lore or anything. But he's just like, wait, I'm in a new body, which means that now you're the first one who see me. So I can transfer my soul into you. I don't even need Andy. And it's just like it like how he came to that conclusion. It just like it doesn't necessarily make sense to me, because like the same thing happened with in Child's Play 2, you could argue, and the first person who he came in contact with was the guy with the glasses in the car. The assistant,
Greg German's character.
So just like, so already the lore is completely contradictory of itself, but just it just sort of it felt so forced just to say like we're gonna do this, and who knows, maybe if it had actually happened, he would have seen like, oh no, I can't, it has to be Andy, because it never really got to that point. So it's just like we spend the movie with like this kid thinking that he's in danger, or Andy thinking that he's in danger, or Andy wanting to protect him, and nothing about Andy in this movie, like more so just based on like everything that was set up by Alex Vincent and the writing in the first two movies, that maybe he does have some sort of affinity to this kid, because he's now being pursued by Chucky the same way he was when he was a child. But there's really like everything that we've seen from this version of Andy, it's just like, why does he care? It's just like, why is he making the same mistakes over again? Like, knowing that no one's going to believe him. Like, he should be more pragmatic at this point. And I just feel like he's not. Like, he's stupider, and he's making like worse choices, because by the time, by the ending of Child's Play 2, Andy was resourceful. Like, he had already kind of learned from the mistakes he made, and it's just like, okay, so all of a sudden he's now 8 years older and just like completely lost that muscle
Yeah.
memory.
And to that, Tyler is
Yeah.
older than Andy was in the first movie, and I feel like Andy was handled as a character, fielding like all of this unforeseen interaction with this live doll that is saying his dead father sent him to play with him, and then slowly starts to realize, I'm being gaslit. This doll's gonna frame me. I could go away and be taken away from my mommy. All of that is so much more interesting than anything Tyler does for me in this movie. Although that said, I always said I could follow up a criticism with like something kind of uplifting, or I don't know about uplifting, but something positive. And one positive take that I have gotten in recent years, because I used to hate Tyler as a character. I just thought you're barely a character. You're frustrating. I just wish you weren't in this movie. Now when I watch him, there are times where when he's not being underwritten, where I'm just kind of like watching a poor kid. I don't know really his story either, but like he's alone there. It looks like he was just kind of like left or just kind of found his way there too. I don't know how much he has in common with Andy.
Not very much. Like from what I gleaned from him is just like his father or mother, whoever. I think it's the father, because I someone mentions it, I think, but it's just like he's in the military and he's off somewhere. So it seemed like he's not like, he doesn't have behavioral issues like I guess like most of the kids there do. He's just sort of there situationally because like he is a military kid and his father. And
I got that vibe.
Yeah. So we get that because he's kind of like, he's given allowances that the other kids aren't. Like, you know, obviously like the like authoritarians are much more lenient with him. But it does create a scenario because he's kind of bullied by the kids there just because he has like special privileges. Like he's sitting there, he has a video game. Like we talked about, like no one else would have that. That's another thing that makes him kind of a douchebag, because it's like clearly no one else in this place has these privileges, and he's just like flaunting it in front of everyone. But
he's not going to connect to anybody in that mess hall, though. He is younger than every kid in that
no, because he has
establishment,
his like tent mate in the war games was like his age. Because remember, Andy goes in there and he's just like, "Where's Tyler?" And he's like, "He went AWOL with some guy named Charles."
That's right. I forgot about that. But I mean, do we get a strong sense that like he has friends? I don't.
No,
like,
because they're like kicking the shit out of the package. As he's like taking it to.
Don't. Yeah, Jesus. Yeah. But I mean, go ahead.
No, you finish your thought.
Well, because you were talking about bullying and everything like that. I feel like to an extent, like we also witnessed. I don't know if it's full out bullying, but it's definitely something I would categorize as a mistreatment when he discovers Chucky and Colonel Cochran. Every time I hear his name too, I just think Halloween 3 Colonel Cochran. And I'm just like, I know, I just feel like, was that an illusion? Don Mancini, was that on purpose? Because I see you. But I like it. It's a play on words. But anyway, Colonel Cochran in
Colonel.
This movie.
Colonel, not
sits
Connell.
there. He walks in and sees him playing, and he says something to the extent of like, "Boys shouldn't play with dolls." And I'm just like, okay, you can take that attitude right out of here. But then I see it echoed with Tyler when the girls start putting like lipstick on Chucky, and he's like, "Stop it, don't, he looks stupid, you're making him look like a wuss." And I'm like, okay, now I'm not on your side anymore. You and your heteronormativity can go right outside and, you know, just die.
It's 1991.
I'm angry.
I know. We've talked about, you know, looking at these movies through the lens of the time that they're made in, but
I think it bothered me then too. Like, just like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Like,
you know,
you
know, I'm bothered by certain things in other movies. Like for instance, we talked about Freddy versus Jason last month, but no, I was just gonna say to the point of like the whole like Damballa like voodoo shit, because I feel like this was the route that was going to take the franchise just and like ride it into the ground, because it's just like, how many times can Chucky just like be on this train of transferring his body or soul into like some kid's body or whatever. And I think that that's one of the things that Don Mancini corrected, where he's just like, no, he'll like throw in these MacGuffins that are like completely ridiculous. Like, 'cause what is it called in Bride of Chucky? It's like the amulet of.
Oh fuck. I'm not gonna remember.
Yeah, we'll cover it when we get to that, because it's like it kind of retcons so much, because it's just like, why didn't you just think of that in the first place? But I mean, like, it makes sense with Chucky because sometimes he's not like the most focused serial killer, but it's because like from where they go, and then it's really in Seed where he kind of gets to that point where he says, you know, like, I don't want to be a human. Like, I'm the killer doll, and I dig it. And it's nice to see that like Chucky as a character as well has a journey throughout these movies. He's not just the same mindless killer just trying to do the same thing. Like, he's not the roadrunner to Andy's coyote, or sort of the coyote to Andy's roadrunner.
The coyote,
and
right.
That's very much like what this movie is. It's just like it's just a lot of that, and there's not really much depth to it. So I think that I'm glad that this movie exists, and I'm glad that, you know, in spite of everything, like, I really enjoy this movie. I love it a lot. I don't think it's great, but I like the fact that it's, and the same with all of the Child's Play movies, is that it has a very unique identity about it. Like, this is the one that takes place in military school. Like, none of the other movies have that. Like, each movie and season of the show have its own thing, and that inconsistency creates consistency. Because it's always changing. There's always something different. So even for its faults, this movie still manages to be successful in my eyes. So I'm glad for everything, and I'm glad that this kind of that it exists, because it kind of was there to, I guess, allow John Mancini to see, like, something's got to change here if we're going to keep going with this.
Yeah, I agree. Although one thing I really appreciate in this movie that feels singular as of this particular point is Chucky's default face. I mean, when he's active and Charles Lee Ray in full effect, they have this default on Chucky's face that goes to like almost like an ick face. Like, it's just kind of like his nose gets all crinkly and his teeth are showing, and he just kind of looks like, eh. I mean, it's very much akin to what's on the poster art, which makes it kind of perfect. But I just feel like a lot of his reaction shots, he's just kind of like, just kind of like this grimace on his face. And I find it adorable. It makes me happy. I love that the freckles are as pronounced as they are, even when he's evil, because that's not always the case.
Remember back in the first...
I
was going to say, remember back in the first movie where, like, being possessed, like, actually started to turn him human?
Yeah, and he started, like, getting, like, gray receding hairline. Yeah. And
like, he was actually becoming
eye bags
flesh.
And crow's feet.
Yeah.
Yes, it's so great. No, they had to abandon that pretty early on. I remember hearing Don Mancini speak to that, saying like that had to be abandoned because you really can't keep making that movie where you just keep aging a doll, and you know, he just needs to be Chucky as we recognize
Absolutely.
him.
Did they ever speak to that too? Because I feel like Chucky is so self-referential that there has to have been a point at some in one of the movies or other. He's just like, remember when I used to turn into flesh?
I haven't seen that because the thing is, it's the rules are always changing. Like there are instances, like I think about, and we'll just dive in more when we, but just to allude to it in Seed when they open Tiffany's back right after she's been reintroduced into her doll body. He unscrews the back and pulls the little lip off of her back, and all of a sudden you just see like all these moving veins and muscles and everything like that are all bloody and stuff, as though she's alive. And it's like, well, if that had happened in the first movie, she would have just been doll parts until, you know, she starts to become more real. She would have like had a zit here, and she would have had some pores, and she would have had, you know, something like that. But
I think it's one of those franchises where it's best to just like, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's best to just ignore the logic of everything. But that's what I'm saying, because I feel like he addresses it in some form or another, because he'll just like ponder something. He'll just be like, yeah, we used to do this, but then we don't do that anymore, like for whatever example.
Yeah.
And especially like I've noticed that a lot in the series. So it's just like there's always like everything is canon, everything is addressed, because there were certain things that like didn't make any sense, like in Seed, of just the fact that they're making they're making a Chucky movie where he is a killer doll. So it's just like, then how, if they're making a movie where he actually is a killer doll, why going forward is like that not a thing? Like just Jennifer Tilly's presence there as well. And like the answer to that, John Mancini's answer to that is like, we're just gonna make it even more confusing. We're just gonna like fuck it up more, and like, and it's great, because it's just like it doesn't matter. It just has to be entertaining. And
well, because Chucky also gets to develop as a character in terms of like he's basically an old man now, but we get to see how does he roll, what punches does he roll with as the decades, change, and as mentalities and sensibilities shift. Like, and you get to see examples of it throughout the series of like, what is he open-minded about, and what is he absolutely everything you would expect him to be, like hard, fast prejudice. Like, there's one example in here that I don't think.
Jake.
Exactly. But like in this one, it's just ignorance, and I feel like I could still see Chucky doing this now, only somebody would be like, excuse me? But it's in this movie, it's when he's talking about how he's going to go into Tyler, he's like, Chucky's going to be a bro. And I'm like, if you did that today, you could just see like whoever he's telling, whatever human, just kind of going, "Oh, Chucky, no, like, we don't talk like that." Come on, get woke, Chuck. But but I do have to say, like, I wish there were more of him in this movie. Like I said, like it's more isolated. Like I love his reaction when that's another moment where you get the little grimace when he's watching Colonel Cochran have the heart attack and everything like that. He's just watching like, and I forget, what does he say? Does he say, you gotta be fucking kidding me? Right.
You gotta be fucking kidding me. How many movies that line is just? I think the first instance that my memory goes back to is The Thing.
The Thing.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah.
But also just the fact that one thing I love about the dumpster sequence is just his presence in it.
Yeah.
Like, we don't get a lot of gore, so it's not that. But situationally, it's like, it's not even horror. It does feel kind of like slapstick because of the commitment that Brad Dourif gives to his vocal performance with the shit. Like, there is just as much blood on the microphone in his recording sessions for this movie as there are, like, in the climaxes of 1 and 2. So, like, I really appreciate
Well,
him for
what I
that.
love about that scene in particular is just sort of like the way that he can transition from like killer doll to like helpless victim, and then back to killer doll, because he's like in this vulnerable position where he needs this guy's help or to stop, and he's like, no, please, like, like he's really like scared, and then as soon as like everything is fine, and then he's just like, all right, let's kill this fucker. And that's just like, it's so him. It's just like he's so unapologetically, it's just like someone will do a favor for him and he'll return that by stabbing them in the back, or, just being like, no, I'm going to crush you. And it makes him such an interesting killer as well. Like, because he's not just like, he's not that thing that like this group in the UK thought that he was just like some mindless slasher. Like, there's nuance to him, and I think even in this movie it's present. And I agree with you, he could have been used a lot more, and I think that's probably a cause of just how how they were perceiving horror, or at least Bender, of just like the direction of this, and even the script of excuse me, of how we're not really seeing a whole lot of Chucky. Like, I think the most we see him like fucking shit up behind the scenes is when he changes the ammunition like the paint ammunition
yeah.
for the live rounds.
Oh God,
which
that
was
fucked up.
terrifying. Apparently, that sequence was supposed to be a bloodbath of like how it was written. Like there was going to be a lot more casualties, and it just turned out to be the one. But I even remember seeing the movie for the first time and just being shocked by that, because it's just like, oh, we're in for something crazy. And actually, if there's something successful about this script, I think that's it, because that's sort of like the Hitchcock bomb under the table, because we're, he changes that out, and then we're with the cadets for a really long time, just seeing them go off on their way, and we're like, we know something bad is going to happen, and it lingers on everything so long that it's really building up to it. And I feel like that's maybe one of the misfires of this movie, and it was probably a result maybe of just, who knows, the studio being like, yeah, we have to remove this, or just it's too sensational or too violent, because the payoff for it is kind of a whimper. There's not a lot that comes out of it.
Well, because it's weird, because it either needs to end much sooner or much later to be impactful, like, because it doesn't end soon enough for it to feel real.
Yeah.
Like they're just kind of spilling bullets into each other, and like the first one to go down is Shelton. And
the only one.
The fact that he gets to see Chucky. Yeah, because they start shooting. I mean, I guess nobody else goes down, but they're still shooting at each other and everything. But it takes them a long time to realize that they've got bullets. I guess I thought it was so ambiguous and so kind of poorly shot. I guess I thought other people were going down too.
Yeah. Well, the only other casualty is Whitehurst.
Well, okay, and I forget about that every single time I watch this movie. I forgot about it this time. I watched the movie and I was like, oh, that happens in this movie? Whitehurst throws himself on a fucking grenade, like, and blows to smithereens?
Yeah.
It's actually, usually, sometimes I like to use this word microcosm about like a moment in a movie being a microcosm for like the movie at large. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that is a perfect microcosm for this movie. It's something significant that happened. And it's not like this movie forgot to have things happen. Sometimes movies do that. Yeah. A lot happens in this movie in terms of like, first this happens and then it progresses to this, and that person now treats this person this way and everything like that. So things do happen. I feel like what's missing is they forgot to, let's make everybody answer for this. They forgot to make them matter. Things happen, but do they matter? Not really.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I like Whitehurst has a very interesting character arc, because, again, like the seeds are planted there and nothing is done with it. And he's one of the people who sees Chucky, the boo moment. And I mean, his response to it is frustrating, of how it's just like, and Andy knows, and it's just like, come on, like, just... Yeah,
like just outright denial and cowardice.
But then, like, his response to that, like, the only way that he can, like, redeem himself or some way is to throw himself on this grenade. Right. It doesn't make any sense for the character. It doesn't. It's not like it was like this empowering moment. Like he's technically saving everyone, but it's just like nobody really notices it. Like they notice, but nobody's really like affected by it, except for the girl with the curly red hair, who we don't know her name, where it's just like, oh, was she like into him or something? Like that's never set up at all throughout the movie either. So it's just like, it's all these like strange things that just like this character could have been present, like this, it could have mattered. It could have affected us. I could have felt bad for. I mean, I do feel bad for him, but I don't I don't care.
Well, also he chooses like even when there's one point where Andy full on does tell him like, come on, just tell them what happened. He's just like, I can't. And I'm sitting there like, why?
Yeah.
Why? I mean, it would be so much more interesting if I understood why you're choosing not to tell people, or maybe it wouldn't, I don't know, but because I mean, again, felt like introducing conflict just for conflict's sake. We need to keep the movie going, and we got another half hour to go, so but the other thing, I started to talk about this with Tyler hanging from Andy during the climax, and then this is, again, logistically, like, it just kind of didn't make any sense to me, even though I love the look of this climax. Chucky jumps on Andy's back while Andy is holding on to Tyler for Tyler's dear life. Yeah. And Chucky is on Andy's back, like beating him and screaming things like, "Give me the fucking kid, he's mine," and everything like that. And he keeps repeating like essentially that line over and over and over again. Yet everything that Chucky is doing while he is uttering those phrases is countering. It's like counteracting his objective, because he's not helping Andy pull Tyler up. He's actually making it harder for Andy to hold on to him. There's a giant fan below them that is going to kill Tyler if he falls into it. So it doesn't make any sense. I'm just like, this is just, again, just things happening that don't mean anything. And it's chaos. It's
beautiful chaos though. Like there's
it is. It's beautiful
enjoyable.
To behold.
It's I mean, like that's, and I don't know if I have too much more to say before we get to the cherry picker.
Right.
So my final thoughts would be like, if this is the worst that this franchise can do, like that's perfectly fine. Like I will take it. I gave this 3 stars out of 5 on Letterboxd. I wouldn't say it's a flat 3. I wouldn't say it's as high as a 3.5 though. Like it's it's in between there if I could give it something, but it's it's perfectly watchable and entertaining. And I have no problem, if I were to do a marathon, I would always watch this movie.
I would too, absolutely. Or if I were introducing somebody to the franchise, I'm not of the mind that you should skip movies if you're going to move through a franchise. Like, you need to experience the whole thing. You need to be in it and know what you're into. Otherwise, you can't really truly call yourself a fan or even an authority. You need to know what you're talking about. You need to love the whole thing. For better or worse.
Yeah, I guess.
And I don't mean love it all equally, but I mean I still
no.
I need to embrace the whole thing. I embrace this film, but I embrace it and pick at nits in its hair, going, where were you? What is this?
Also, just a disclaimer for myself. I don't know if you're on the same boat, but when I think of the Child's Play franchise, that does not include the remake. So I'm just going to put that out there.
No, if we were lumping, because I mean they're two different storylines, and it doesn't feel like the same franchise. Too much is different.
Yeah.
All the similarities are cosmetic purely. And but if somebody were to twist my arm and say, no, you have to include the remake would definitely be ranked beneath this movie. I have more fun with this movie than I do with the remake.
I've only seen the remake once, but I could probably commit to that same mindset as well. And it's interesting because like for some, like the Halloween franchise, I still consider the Rob Zombie movies to be part of like the overall franchise, because it's still the same studio. It's still was their next step with everything. Whereas like with the Child's Play remake, it was like a completely different thing that was separate from Don Mancini and Brad Dourif.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Well, I mean, it's interesting because I mean, like, well, maybe one day we'll unpack everything about those movies. But I do have to say, like, I never walked away from either Rob Zombie movie feeling like there was a lack of passion or a soullessness to them. I had other issues with them, but with the Child's Play remake, it was completely soulless to me. There was no pulse to it.
Maybe one day we'll cover it. But interestingly enough, like in the trivia here, both Don Mancini and Brad Dourif cite Child's Play 3 as being their least favorite. And I don't think that includes. Okay. I don't think that includes the remake either, because I think that they would lump that beneath Child's Play.
I'd be surprised if either of them have seen the remake. That's in its entirety. Maybe they watched like the first 10 minutes and went, "I thought so," and just turned it off.
Anyway, let's get to the cherry picker.
It's not like we killed people on purpose.
All right, so before we get to that, do you have a cherry on top that you would like to throw out there?
Chucky's the only fully realized character in this movie. I mean, if there's someone beyond Brad Dourif or Chucky, I forget whether we do character or actor, but
we do character.
Yeah, both.
It's character.
Okay,
you can
Chucky.
incorporate
I would say,
the performance into it. That's always a criteria. But I would agree with you.
Yeah, Chucky. Yeah. This is Chucky.
It's Chucky's entry. There's a case to be made for De Silva, but I'm like you said, there's not enough of a character there. Like, I enjoy her, especially when she is kind of like commanding the scenes and the other characters. But by the end of it, she, like you said, just becomes sort of like the helpless. Like, okay, you do this. Like, I've brought you as far as I can. Yeah. Now it's up to you. Let me give you my powers.
Perry Reeves did a really, really good job with kind of like a minimal character, but she found the strength in it. Yeah. She found the spontaneity, and I would love to see her turn up. I don't think she has already, but I would love to see her turn up in the series in either as De Silva or as something else.
I was just gonna ask you that if you'd want to see her come back as De Silva.
Either, sure, bring her back to De Silva.
I would say anyone who's still alive who had I'll even take Katherine Heigl and Nick Stabile.
Totally. Oh my God.
I want to know what's going on with them. I don't care for them, but I mean, not the actors, the characters, but
Jesse and Jade.
I want to check in with them. I want to see what's going on. So
they're part of it. Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't think that Chucky has gotten the cherry on top yet, because I think that first we weren't doing cherry on tops when we did season 1, so I can't remember if we retroactively decided that it was Nika or
Lexi.
Well, because the thing with Nika is that's Fiona Dourif. It would be the performance of her playing 4 different roles or whatever. But yeah, it wouldn't have been Chucky, and season 2 was Tiffany, and the first Child's Play movie I distinctly remember you wanted Karen, and the second movie it might have been Chucky for the second movie, or it might have been Andy.
Might have been. It had to be one of the two. Yeah. I can't remember which one either. Yeah. But we'll keep track from now on. We'll chart graphs.
I'll have to go back. Or if someone knows and they remember, please comment and tell us who the cherry on top was.
Yeah, sorry if you're screaming at your phone or something, your device right now, going it was Andy! Sorry.
All right. So, last week, or 2 weeks ago, I should say, we asked you, who deserves to die the most in You Are Next? I nominated Crispian Davison. You nominated Felix Davison. And across Patreon, Instagram, and YouTube, the final tally was 856 for Crispian versus 207 for Felix.
We tried, guys. Thanks for showing up.
Thank you. I needed that after the last... after the way I've been treated here...
Oh, dear God.
All right. Fred Hodder. I am going to vote for Crispian. I don't know why. It's Crispin, but I can't not say Crispian. I am going to vote for Crispin. He masterminded the whole plan, but didn't have the balls to stick around and see it through. Plus, I don't like the way he spells his name. Just had to throw that A in there to be all fancy pants. I mean, I think that was his parents, but yeah.
Yeah, right. But probably. It just dawned on me because we're just coming off of our Disney villain thing that we did. I had to watch a bunch of Disney movies, and I rewatched Little Mermaid. And he just reminded me of, I think he's a little seahorse who comes out, and he's just like, I'm afraid there's no sign of either of them. Oh, Sebastian. And he's the only one in the movie who calls Sebastian.
Does he also call them a crustacean?
You're a tiny little seahorse, Zach Cherry. That's who you are when you say Crispian.
By the way, the Disney villains episode that was last week's episode, which was the preview. So check it out.
Yeah. Patreon.
Got to plug that. Yeah. Sean Princick, Crispin, obviously, like a true scumbag, he plots to get his whole family killed just for money. Erin is definitely one of my favorite final girls. Of course, I've always known that this film would be a lot different if the killers were all competent. I mean, they are bordering on Home Alone levels of incompetency. I'm surprised the cop at the end didn't get nominated. What a real piece of work. I'm going to shoot first and ask questions, never. We could all do with fewer cops like this. Also, Zach, I really appreciate that you managed to pronounce my last name without needing correcting. It gets mispronounced all the time. Thank you. Oh, that makes me feel so good because I have no fucking idea when I say someone's name.
I know. So, you always walk in like you're preparing to stumble when you read last names and such.
It's bad, yeah.
Yeah.
Or first names. Any
or
name.
not. Maybe you're getting it right every time. Maybe you're nailing it and you don't even know. You gotta get confidence.
I don't because people don't typically like if someone like mispronounces my name, I don't like correct them or anything. And I'm talking about my real last name.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
I probably do
it's
in a very annoyed tone.
Yeah, I mean, because you can say it different ways. It's like it's either Chereshny or Serezny, like depending on how it's spelled. So, but it still means cherry. So, gotta brand it for YouTube.
Streamline it.
Absolutely, yeah. But yeah, people have like mispronounced it in the past, and sometimes I do get excited when they're like they say it right. I'm like, oh wow, good for you. But I would never correct anyone and just be like, you got it wrong.
It'd be funny if they got cherry wrong. There's like
Chevy.
Zach Kahari, Zach Chevy. That's hilarious.
Movie Maniac, definitely Crispin. Felix wasn't a good character, but at least he stuck by decisions. Crispin ran away and let everyone else do the dirty work.
All right.
Lost Life Vids. So I took time to think about this one. I think it's easily Crispin because of the reasons everyone stated, but also I have an icky feeling he wanted to get rid of Erin. We don't know what the response has been to him dating a former student. And if he saw this as a way to gain some mass sympathy in some way, I can see him trying to show off his girlfriend as well. But I feel like Crispin comes off as someone who, due to his upbringing, struggles to succeed and probably wants more attention than he's ever actually gotten. Which is likely why he's open to having a relationship with a former student due to the power differential. So to me, I think having his girlfriend be amongst those murdered serves as a way to show he was victimized in ways beyond just his family being killed to throw off suspicion, and it would probably create all this undeserved sympathy and attention for him in his life. He would be able to rework the narrative around his relationship with Erin to anything he needed it to be to gain whatever it is he wanted to gain through her death. At the very least, his brother, though a massively entertaining asshole, had the commitment to stick with the plan, though I suspect he only did because his girlfriend was there to make sure they were part of the action.
You did think through. Good for you.
Yeah. Gotta breathe. Awesome. Silent Saturn. Felix might just be the Charlie to Z's Jill, but at least he sees the job through, whereas Crispin scarpered first chance he got. To think he was this close to getting away with it all and even be the sole heir, if only he'd kept his mouth shut. No excuse for such stupidity. He gets the chop.
I just don't see any boon to a person seeing their family's murders through. But I respect if someone else sees it that way.
Norman Paniche. Erin for cherry on top and deserves a franchise. Crispin is so devious and can't get published, so he deserves death. And although Felix sucks, I'm surprised Z isn't an option for what she wanted to do with Felix in the bedroom. Don't want to spoil, but she's gross. Love the pod, and you guys, thanks.
Thanks, but and she is gross, but she's entertaining.
She's great, yeah. And I would say that, and I even said in that episode, like, if any of them, or if any of the Ghostface killers are Felix and Z, it's Richie and Amber. But
Nice.
no, Z is great. I could not put her on that nomination chopping block. Scarecrow Streets. I have some kind of morbid respect for Felix, as he would actually kill someone himself if he had to. But my vote for who deserved to die is for Crispin, as he is one of the worst kind of people. To paraphrase Sam Carpenter from Scream 6, he was a man baby who made... That's right. He was a man baby who made other people do all the killing for him. And if Crispin did kill someone himself, he'd probably cry about it while he did it. So he dies, in my opinion.
Felix did almost exactly that. Don't you know how hard this is for me? Anyway, go on. I'm starting to get upset now.
It's okay. This is what we do here. If we're losing, we get upset. Yeah. Crispin for
one of us does, but go on.
You just got upset.
I'm getting upset now. I don't usually get upset. This is uncharacteristic for me.
Whatever.
You know it's true. Keep your reading.
No, I don't actually. But whatever. Whatever you need to tell everyone, you know. Avery
check the receipts, folks. Check the
Crispin
receipts.
for sure. He was just a whiny baby and was trying to lie and buy his way out. He was utterly pathetic and useless. I would have voted for the man from the opening scene because he did deserve it. He was a total creeper. That nice college professor? What did he do?
Dated a student, or not even dated, like took a student home and who knows?
Banged her, yeah. She didn't.
Yeah.
Well, she was just there for like the fringe benefits. Like she was not enjoying the intimacy at all.
No, I think she was trying to get a better grade or something.
Yeah,
I
whatever.
That's why people want to kill him.
Free liquor, countryside, whatever.
Still, too little time spent with him. We spend more time with the members of the family. So, that's why I didn't vote for the cop. I think we laid that out too.
Yeah.
In our discussion.
Unreal Talks. Crispin. At least Felix didn't hide the whole movie. Thomas Baker. Crispin was a baby who didn't have the balls to kill someone, but Felix did, so I'm going with Felix.
Oh my god. Okay, this equating his murders with courage, it's just...
But that's a vote for you, though.
Is that what they... Wait, huh?
But Felix did, so I'm going with Felix. Thomas Baker voted for Felix.
Did he... I don't understand the way the sentence was phrased. It's okay, you don't have to reread it. I'll just listen to the episode again. Go on.
Okay. Sucked. Crispin for sure, but not just for what he did in Your Next, but for what he did to Greta Gerwig in the Ty West Mumblegore classic House of the Devil. Never seen it. P.S. I wish
cover that one.
P.S. I wish Adam Wingard would do a Scream movie, because Your Next reminds me of the third act of Scream. So hard. Alex.
Adam Wingard can be great, and then sometimes I'm like,
Well, everyone has their bad days.
Yeah.
You can't rush art. You can't rush art.
Just keep going.
Alex Norton, just like Zach, to pick the character that's only trying to protect others. Just like the sheriff in Freddy vs. Jason, Crispin was only trying to protect Aaron. Sorry, I can't keep that up with a straight face. I'm definitely voting for the old crispy Crispin to get the axe. He knowingly set Aaron up to die, dipped out when things got real, and dug his hole deeper by lying and just trying to justify everything at the end.
I wish we just called him Old Crispy the whole pod.
Crispy Crispin.
I like it.
Always trying to protect, always nominating the characters that try to protect others. Mendejo, what did Aaron see in this guy? Chill anyway, chop. Okay. Chop.
I can't judge her in her dating choices because I have my own roster and history, and I can't judge anybody. Anyway, I'm sure none of us can.
Yeah. Coming soon, Edward's new podcast.
Yeah, right. my relationship, my backstory.
Noble. Felix was annoying, but it has to be Crispin. Amethyst Frost. Kill Crispin. just for his name being spelled like that. I think that pretentious name was the real hint the family was rich instead of that country house. He could afford to buy the extra vowel.
That's funny.
Hey. Emperantha. Tough choice, but probably Crispin.
Okay.
All right.
I don't even have a vocal minority here. Wow. All right.
Well, you got Thomas.
Thank you,
All right.
Thomas. Sorry I misunderstood you. All right, go, Zach.
I'm gonna vote, or I'm gonna nominate Shelton because fuck that guy. We didn't even talk about him really.
Not really.
But he's just like, if this is just the basic Child's Play movie, he's just like the basic villain or secondary villain. Everything about him is what's wrong with everything in this movie. So I was glad that he was the sole casualty of Chucky's machinations with the ammunition. I don't even remember enough about him to really say anything. It was weird, like because obviously he had some sort of position at the school because he was a student. Like
he was.
But he, just like in a higher class or whatever, and he abused that power.
He was like Colonel Cochrane's winged monkey.
Yeah.
Basically.
So it's just like, anytime like there's someone who abuses their power in that way, him for sure, and just the mistreatment and tying up other students and putting him in the closet and all that. And I don't know.
Sure.
It's what else is there to say? That guy.
Okay. Your Honor. Well, it is indeed true that Shelton has abused his power and is an all-around asshead throughout the run of this movie. His industriousness in the face of this killer doll I find somewhat impressive, and I do get a nice kind of giggle when I don't remember what it is that he says when he sees Chucky alive before he gets it. But he just kind of has this moment before he
might have said like, "Well, I'll be damned," or like that.
Yeah, something like that. And I'm just kind of like, I don't know. I find it charming, but he is an asshole. I understand why you chose him. My choice, I didn't even have to think about it. He just put me off. I thought I knew a few others, and then I was like, no, it's this guy. It's Sergeant Botnick, the barber of Kent. What?
Andy Robinson. Andy Robinson.
Not Andy Robinson. He did a great job. He gives good creepy. That's why I'm nominating the character, because the character bothers me. I feel like there's more going on than meets the eye. Like there's a subtext behind the way he kind of uses as many senses as possible to like whether it was imagined or not. Like I just kind of got a sense that he smells the scalps of the kids or like the fact that he's like gripping their hair in the lunchroom in the mess hall, as it were, and everything like that. And he finds the one guy who's like shorn completely, and he's just kind of like, my man, or whatever. As he's
my
like,
man.
I don't forget what he says. Yeah, something like that. And I'm just like, ew. And another
because
thing,
there's some like it's like Wednesday.
Right, yeah, and that's gross. And then also the fact that like he after he gives, is it Whitehurst he gives Whitehurst and he says, now you're bald, and it's like, no, he's not. Stop with the false advertising. But presto, you're bald. Sends him on his way. And he starts cleaning up while he's whistling, and that's another thing that he deserves to die for. I can't stand fucking whistlers. If you want to get under my skin, whistle absent-mindedly around me. I will vote you in the cherry
whistle
picker.
while you work.
But also because he's not even a good whistler. He does that like I can't whistle either, but I mean he's literally just and then he finds a doll, and he's so is sadistic the word? Just gone. He's just, there's something wrong with his wiring in his head. He sees a doll, and the first thing he thinks is, I'm gonna give it a haircut. I'm so glad he dies. He should have died twice. That's he deserves to die the most, my estimation, because even though I love Andrew Robinson and I think he gave a great performance, I don't enjoy the character once on screen. He's not there to be enjoyed, and that's why I'm killing him. There you go. That's my case, Your Honor.
All right.
The defense rests.
Thank you.
Or the prosecution rests, rather.
A very impassioned argument.
You're going all Judge Judy on me now.
Are you going to pee on my leg and tell me it's raining? You can vote your heart, you can vote your conscience, and that will be open on Patreon, Instagram, and YouTube. Again, if you are subscribing on Patreon, you will get early access to all of our episodes, and depending on which tier you're at, you could also get access to the Cherry Picker After Dark. This month, it is Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 6 that we will be talking about. We're going to rank all of the episodes individually, again, of course, because every other season that we did not agree at all.
Not even a little.
Even a little bit.
A lot of our tops and a lot of our bottoms kind of found their way in the same categories, but we rarely. But our rankings rarely mirrored each other.
I think people already know that we view things differently. So you can vote there. You do get an extra vote as a Patreon supporter. Otherwise, you can vote on Instagram. Go follow us there at the Cherry Picker Pod. You can also go subscribe to us on YouTube, the Cherry Picker. So if you are listening, then this is your first time listening to us, you can watch us as well. But if you are watching on YouTube, the RSS feed link is in the descriptions down below, and you can listen to us instead if that's more conducive to you. We're also on TikTok, the Cherry Picker Pod. So go follow us there. And individually, where can they find you, Edward?
Edward is Truth. Type it in, see if it works. No, I'm on YouTube. I'm on Letterboxd. I'm on Instagram. Was there one more that I'm forgetting about? Oh yeah, and I'm on TikTok. Edward is Truth, one word, traditional spelling. How about you, Zach?
How Gen Z of you.
Yeah, how about you, Kazevis? Zachary Kazevis.
Wow. I've gotten kerosene before. That's probably one of my favorites.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
You can kind of badass.
Badass. Kerosene.
Yeah.
You can find me at my main YouTube channel, Zach Cherry. ZACKCHERRY. I'm also on Instagram at RetroBitchface, all one word. I'm on Twitter, ZachCherry8, and Letterboxd, Zach Cherry. I don't know. All the information is somewhere on down there, so you can go look for it there. We go over it every fucking week. I don't know why. This is it's always a chore, but that's because everyone's anticipating and waiting to find out what we're doing next week. So what are we doing next week?
Oh, I wrote it down. Wait.
Can I just? Is this gonna take a while? Because I can.
No. Wait. Where did I write it? No.
Okay, we're going to be covering What Lies Beneath.
That one
From the year 2000, I think 2000 or 1999, somewhere around there. Michelle Pfeiffer, Harrison Ford. We're really excited about this one. I am, at least. I don't know how you feel, but yeah.
Well, you're going to find out next week.
I guess we will, yeah. Anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and we will be right back.